Hello fellow readers, I'm Francesca and I am the Teen Book Club product buyer. So basically that means that I select the books that go to schools on these book clubs, these little leaflets here. And today I thought we'd go through the books that kind of make you think and maybe kind of make you stop and really look at something in your life and just think, hold on a second, what does this mean to me? First off, I'd like to talk about The Wind Singer by William Nicola. This was probably my favourite book when I was 12 years old. I'd just moved schools and I was really struggling, kind of exams, and just didn't really understand. And so when I went from primary to secondary school, suddenly they put you into sets, and I'd never really known about sets and kind of being top, middle and bottom and things. And this book, very similar. It's set in a slightly different world, where everything you do from the day you're born right up to the day you die is rated, and your life is kind of reflected on what your rating is. So your whole family has a rating, and it's about these two kids, a girl and boy, brother and sister, trying to figure out how to change it, and they're trying to find this object, the wind singer, to try and change the way that their world works, basically, because they're tired of being rated and being told that they can only sit at the back of the class because they're at a certain score. So again, that's The Wind Singer by William Nicola. I would say this is actually appropriate for kind of 9-year-olds onward, but I just think kind of 11 to 12, 13-year-old would really reflect and kind of understand what the characters are going through. And the next book I'm going to talk about is The Bone Sparrow by Zana Frelon. This is a book about Subdi, who is a refugee living in Australia in a detention camp. He's never been outside of the detention camp. That's all he's ever known. And it's a bit, most people would kind of describe it as kind of a modern boy in striped pajamas. It's about Subdi, who meets this girl called Jimmy from the outside world. So Jimmy lives outside, and her father is away a lot, so she kind of goes exploring. She finds this detention centre without really knowing what it is. And it's basically about their relationship and them trying to both understand each other's worlds. And then there's a really cute, nice kind of saying in the beginning that Zan has written to everyone that I just thought I'd read out because I think it's really good. It says, "To those who refuse to be blinded by the glare or deafened by the hush, who are brave enough to question and curious enough to explore. To those who will not forget, you will make a difference, and to the rest of us so that we may learn how." And I think that's a really good kind of sentiment to think about, like reading and just understanding about immigration and the refugee crisis around the world, and kind of understanding that it affects people of all ages. And Supi's only 11 years old, and it's based on a real detention camp in Australia. So it's a really affecting read, but amazing. I'd say it's probably best for kind of 11, 12 and 13-year-olds. There's nothing too harsh or violent, but there are a couple of violent scenes at the end that just get quite hard to read. But it's an absolutely beautiful tale. And I actually think anyone, if you're an adult as well, you'd absolutely love this. So yeah, that is The Bone Sparrow by Zana Frelon. And next up, we have Noughts and Crosses by Malorie Blackman. Probably a lot of you have probably heard about this book. If you haven't, I don't know how you haven't. It's one of my favourite books ever growing up as a teenager. It was one of those books that we passed around the whole of the classroom. It deals with racism and prejudice against this backdrop of this amazing love story between Seppi and Callum. And I don't really want to say much about it, because it's the sort of book that once you start reading it, you just get completely enthralled in the story. It's dual narrative, so Seppi does one chapter and then it will go to Callum, so you see two different perspectives, and they're both living very different lives, but obviously in love. And the main reason I wanted to show it is because of these beautiful new covers that Penguin have released. And we've got the whole pack on the Teen Book Club spring offer, and I just think it's one of the best series ever. And it just, makes you think about a lot, just about history and the way we live our lives. So yeah, that is Noughts and Crosses by Malorie Blackman. And next up we have Everything Beautiful Is Not Ruined by Danielle Young Ullman. This book is set in the wilderness. A bunch of teenagers, kind of misfits, people who've kind of dealt with things in the real world and need to escape. They go off on a hiking trip, and it's basically about this one girl, Ingrid, and throughout the book you find out more about what's happened in her past as she deals with her present. at the back it says, when memories are too heavy to carry, just keep walking, which I think is a really nice kind of tagline, just to say kind of, yeah, you just need to walk through it. And just to warn you, it does have some swearing and mature content, such as dealing with depression, so I'd say it's probably better for kind of 14 plus readers. The next three I've chosen kind of, they've got the same theme. Basically, you might recognise them on YouTube or in the cinema, and they're all coming to screens very soon. So just thought I'd go through them briefly because you probably know the stories already. First of all, Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. This is a kind of Groundhog Day style film or book. Basically based on this one girl, Samantha, who keeps reliving her last day over and over. And I think the reason I think it's so good is because the idea is that she's got a really good life, she's got a boyfriend, friends, she's doing well at school, so she doesn't quite understand why she keeps reliving this day over and over and over again. And then she starts to realise that it's not her that's struggling, but other people. And so I think it's quite a good way of just being like, sometimes you need to step back and see what's happening around you. And it might not be that you're struggling, but you could help others just by noticing. So I thought, again, I just think the book does that in a really good way and just kind of showing her thought process around it. So it's worth a read. Then we have Everything, Everything by Nicola Yoon. So Nicola Yoon's probably become one of my favourite authors in the last year. Sun is Also Stars, a really great book as well. And it's basically about a girl called Maddie, played in the film by Amanda Stenberg, who's amazing. And she's got a rare illness that means she can't leave her house. She has never left her house in 17 years. She's only ever known her mum and her nurse and her house. So it's kind of basically about her trying to deal with the fact that she kind of lives in this bubble and has no idea what's going on outside until Ollie, the boy next door, arrives. And it's just about her trying to figure out how she can live. I don't really want to give too much away, but it's definitely worth a read. It's really good. Just, yeah, about everything, about life, and how much she has to lose. And then finally, getting a lot of press at the moment is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. One thing to note about all three, they definitely are kind of 14 plus books. There's quite a few bits of content, but this one especially, it's definitely deals with a lot of issues. It's based around a girl who commits suicide. So it's quite strong subject matter, but it is done in a really, I wouldn't say good way. It's done in a really emotional way, but it's the way that you can understand it. And it's very good at kind of teen issues. So it's on Netflix at the moment. I would actually say the book deals with it better internally. I think the Netflix series is very graphic. So I would just say, yeah, if you're not ready for the actual watching the TV show, I think the book is definitely the place to start. It's done really well. Next, we have The Lines We Cross by Randa Abdel Fattah. This book, I really loved reading this book. I actually read it over a year ago, so I've been waiting for ages for it to come out. It's set in Australia. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet style tale, but very modern in the fact that, so it's Michael and Mina. It's dual narrative, so one chapter is Michael and the next is Mina. And it's about their relationship, but also about their families. So Michael is from an Australian family who believe that it's Australian first. They don't believe in immigrants. They think that they should leave the country. They don't believe that they have a place in Australia. Whereas Mina, she is an Afghan immigrant. She has fled Afghanistan when she was little, and her parents and her, they own a restaurant that serves halal food. And it's very much kind of about their very different, diverse ways of living. And to some point they clash, but the whole point is that Michael is falling for Mina and doesn't quite understand why he's been taught to believe that she has no right to live in the country. It's told in a really funny, light-hearted way at times, and then suddenly you're just like, God, we're dealing with quite heavy issues. I loved it. I thought it was like halfway through, you'll have like text messages coming through, and then it's also dealing with her kind of fitting in, trying to make new friends. And then Michael's trying to deal with, like, what does he want to do when he grows older? Like, his parents really want him to go down the same route as them, but he really wants to go and do graphic design. So it's kind of about those two, Michael and Mina, trying to figure out their lives for themselves and not kind of being forced to do the things that their parents want them to do. I was trying to explained this to someone else the other day, and it's very similar to Scam, if anyone's watched the Norwegian TV show. Just the way that the teenagers talk to each other and just have discussions, it just seems so natural, and I really enjoyed it for that. So that's The Lines We Crossed by Randa Abdul Fattah. And finally, so this is not fiction, this is a non-fiction book. It's been my bestseller for almost 2 years now. It's The Teenage Guide to Stress by Nicola Morgan. It's an amazing book, so obviously it's a guide to stress rather than how to get rid of it, because stress is something that you can't really get rid of. But it's something that kind of allows you to notice what's stressful to you. If there are certain things or certain, like if it's exams, it's not just that exams are stressful, it's why are exams stressful? Is it the idea that you're going to fail, or is it the idea that you've revised for the wrong thing? And it just kind of deals with it in a really easy, simplistic way, lots of kind of short sentences, don't know if you can see that, but just kind of lots of tips and hints about everything from body image, social media, drugs and alcohol, just kind of the normal pressures that everyone goes through when they're a teenager, and maybe you don't necessarily think that everyone's dealing with it or going through it, but we all are, and not even just as teenagers. I found this really helpful in my 20s as well. So just in case maybe if you've read any of the other books I've mentioned and you think, God, I'm dealing with some really tough issues, this is actually a really good book. You don't have to read it all in one go as well. It's quite a good book to just have at the side of your bed and just think, God, I'm really not liking my body today. I'm just going to read about the chapter about body kind of dysmorphia and just try and figure out whether I can kind of deal with it. So it deals with some heavy issues, but in a really easy to identify way. That is The Teenage Guide to Stress by Nicola Morgan. So that's it. That's my top recommendations for books to make you think from our teen book club. If you have any other notes or comments, if you've read any of them, or you've got other recommendations of books that you thought made you think that you read as a teenager or are reading now, then just post the comments below and let us know.